The retail space has just been left behind in terms of real-time data to understand what's happening. You can't be agile if you don't have the data. And so, what we're empowering now our customers to do is to actually see in the real time and actually take action.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Conversations on Retail. My name is Matt Pfeiffer, and we are joined today by a couple of industry heavyweights to have a conversation examining the forces shaping next generation category management. And to introduce our guest, first of all, Dr. Harris, you're known as the father of category management. I'd love it if you would introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background and the work that you're doing today at Intent AI.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here. So excited to share the podium with Ty today. My background, well, pretty much the last 35 years, I've dedicated to category management. I started category management basically when I was a professor at USC in Los Angeles, in the food industry management program. Category management came up as one of those next generational techniques for the business, and I left USC. I started the Apollo Space Management System, which then migrated into the Foundations for Category Management. I formed the partnering group. I was the chairman of that. I formed that in 1990. Between that and 2000, my job was to spread the gospel of category management around the world, which I did. In the last couple of years, I've myself and so a number of other people have formed Intent AI. The whole idea is to introduce the next generation of category management, which the time has come, and then to drive it off an AI platform. So that's kind of been the migration for me, Matt, but it's all been focused around category management for the last 35 years.
Ty Kasperbauer, it's been fun getting to know you. I've known the team at Field Agent from the very beginning. It was fun watching them come together with Shelfgram and now the sort of relaunch of Storesight. So introduce yourself, talk about the work that Storesight is doing, particularly as it relates to category management's reinvention.
Thanks. As we talked about, several weeks back, we very recently brought together Field Agent and Shelfgram to create the Storesight platform, the Storesight brand. I am the CEO of the company and, became involved with the business a little over a year ago. After about a 20-year career in B2B software. And so, I've been working on a whole host of different platforms, serving a whole host of different industries, and some businesses that were able to kind of scale pretty dramatically. And I've always just had a passion for innovating around solutions for B2B customers. Before I got into the software space, though, I actually began my career in CPG. So my first job out of college was territory manager for Revlon Consumer Products, and it was with the organization for 6 years. I rose up the ranks, but really was kind of set the stage for my professional career. And it's been a bit of a homecoming coming back and working with these two companies.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the work that Storesight's doing, specifically in the area of category management.
Yeah. I mean, look, we are Storesight is a retail intelligence platform. And so what we've brought together is just an incredible set of mass scale data. We have many of the listeners here probably remember is from Field Agent, this, 3 million consumer based network of folks in stores. They're able to gather data, images, et cetera, on a constant basis. And that's been brought together with what's formerly known as the Shelfgram platform, which really is an AI-powered software package to be able to digest and engage with that content. And so we are on a mission to really empower particularly category managers and everybody really serving the retail community with this always-on in-store real-time data.
Dr. Harris, what are some of the most significant limitations you see in how category management is currently being practiced?
Yeah, Matt, I think there's a number in particular. Firstly, category management has kind of got disconnected from its strategy purpose, which, as I said before, was one of the key drivers in my initial ideas around category management. But if you look at category management today, it's very tactical. Okay. we've gone back to category management being the planograms and assortment and promotion and pricing. Now, they're a critical part of category management, but they're not a strategic driver of category management. So we've lost that strategy driving connection to do our day-to-day category management work. Secondly, I think category management, for many reasons, tends to look at current situations, look at trends, past trends. So it's kind of backward looking. We know the opportunities for growth in categories. Maybe we can learn from what's happened in the past, but honestly, as Ty just said, the speed of change is so rapid today. If we just become really good at understanding where we are today, that's no guarantee that we're going to be able to see the future, get to the future quicker, and be able to have mechanisms to do that. Category management has to be more forward thinking. Okay. Next, it's too slow. It just takes too long. It's too manual. It takes too long. You can't have 100 spreadsheets of information to drive your category management work. It just takes too long to do it. You can't take 4 to 6 months to do a category business plan when the world can change in 2 weeks. So you have to shorten. It has to be quicker and faster. The inability to handle the multiplicity of data we have today, that's a major issue. We know that category management does best when we use all the relevant data sources, but that's been a real constraint in the past. I mean, we haven't had the tools. With AI, of course, we now enter a new era of opportunity, but multiple data sources, we haven't been able to capture and leverage the value of these exploding variety of data sources. And lastly, and very, very relevant to Storesight, implementation has always been the Achilles heel of category management. We can develop great plans and have great insights, but execution and knowing what's working or what's not working in the stores, or if we do know, it's too slow. It's too slow. We can't react quick enough to any problems happening at the store level, which are preventing the execution of really great category management work. So I think, Matt, they're the limitations of category management as we practice it today. That's why I think at Intent AI, we know it's time to upgrade the process and also to address some of these limitations of speed and the inability to capture all these valuable data sources, including the data that Storesight now delivers on an unbelievable scale.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think, we are hearing time and time again from our customers around just the need for more agility, more speed in the process. I mean, I think, again, with this kind of convergence with the digital world that just, is instantaneous, the need for decisions, actions, updates has to be happening in a far, greater cycle. That's the, trends and consumer demands don't care about retail planning cycles when it comes down to it. And so being able to be agile with that, having the data to drive those agile decisions and have confidence in them is key. And then the point around implementation, look, category strategy without execution is category fantasy when it comes down to it. And so, we see, and we're working with a lot of our customers now is, you hear about perfect store, new shelving standards, shelving principles, all these things. These are major corporate initiatives coming down with a focus on retail execution. And we're working with them to create the actual scorecards and instrumentation to be able to manage that on a live basis, to see what's happening and be able to understand, because that has ultimately been the big gap. And that is, what we're solving is be able to give you scale of touch in the market to actually see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, if I could just add to that, to me, the combination of attributes that we need to have in these tools. We've got to have speed. We can't take 2 weeks to figure out that there's a problem in the store. Okay, speed, accuracy. We have to be accurate in what it's telling us. We got to be able to see what's happening and not just simply have somebody tell us what's happening. Right. So speed, accuracy, relevance is another big one. It's got to be meaningful. If we monitor conditions in the store, but we're monitoring things that, frankly, even if we improve them, they won't have a dramatic impact on the sales of that category. It's good to know, but it's not relevant enough to be worth the effort. And then lastly, scale. The ability to scale it out from one store to multiple stores to markets to and so on. So that combination of speed, accuracy, relevancy, and scale, to me, have always been the attributes of tools that are really very productive. And I think what Storesight has put together meets all those criteria.
Yeah. So real time, always on, at scale. That's sort of the power of Storesight. Ty, talk about how the Storesight model really is the antithesis to the traditional model, which has become too tactical, too slow, too focused on the past.
Well, I mean, look, having been there with the emergence of POS, which was a game changer at the time, the ability to actually have those, kind of rearward looking scorecards, looking at your data in the past, at least gave you insight, like you're able to understand, some historical trends, et cetera. What's, again, then fast forward 25 years and we're living in this digital world, this digital economy, everything on e-commerce is instantaneous. And so the retail space has just been left behind in terms of real time data to understand what's happening. You can't be agile if you don't have the data. And so, what we're empowering now our customers to do is to actually see in the real time and take action on all those variables that are affecting retail outcomes.
Dr. Harris, earlier this year, you and your team introduced a new 3-phase model for next generation category management. Walk us through those phases.
Yeah, 3 phases, Matt. If you think about the work of category management, it really happens in like 3 buckets of work. Firstly, there's the strategy level of work, which really gets into things like, what are the motivations and driving forces behind consumer and shopper behavior, motivations, attitudes, expectations, and so on. So you have to start with the consumer and the shopper. You have to understand what's driving their behavior, what's driving their feelings and attitudes. So then the strategy level, then based on that, says, okay, how should we segment? How do we segment our consumers' shop? We know that they're not all alike. We know they vary by market, but how do we segment them? And we can't just simply segment them based on past behavior. We've got to segment them based upon expectations of how their future behavior is going to influence the direction of categories. And coming out of that, the whole idea of where are the growth platforms today? If you understand consumers and shoppers and you understand segmentation, what's driving the shopper missions of these valuable segments, and what kind of growth platforms will attract them into your stores, and what kind of categories will be destination categories to activate the right shopper missions with the right target consumer and shopper segment. So they're parts of the strategy level. The second phase is we call planning. Okay, you have to have a mechanism to say, look, if we understand our consumers and shopper better, we understand what's going to motivate them, we understand their shopper missions and so on. The question then becomes, how do they go from I have a need to I make a purchase decision? That's the consumer and shopper journey idea, right? Where you really want the insights to be able to see how that segment of shoppers makes decisions on where to shop, when to shop, what to buy, how to buy it, how to have feedback on what they bought to reinforce it. So that's the planning mechanism. Okay. The third step is execution, which is really the 8-step process. The 8-step process today, in my opinion, is really still a highly valuable way of executing. But you have to execute based on strategy and planning levels of the process, right? So the 8 steps then become the execution vehicle for the right strategies, geared to the right consumer and shopper behavior processes, and as we know, the last step of that 8-step process is implementation, and that kind of completes the cycle. Because if implementation doesn't work, maybe we have to go back and revisit strategy, revisit our understanding of how consumers are shopping, based upon the difficulties or the limitations we see in execution. So it's the 3 steps, just to summarize: strategy, planning, and execution.
What does that all mean to you?
Yeah, that is the framework. And I think about it, in context of what we do, and where you bring that data. It's just about being empowered on each one of those steps with the data to make decisions. And so what you're using to integrate and to drive your planning decisions, what you're able to do to manage execution, et cetera. But I did want to touch on something. You'd mentioned this notion of shopper missions, and I think that's something that really just kind of resonates with me. And going back to the discussion about, both the suppliers and the manufacturers, like truly being in this role of consumer marketer. Right. And this truly what are, and these shopper missions. I mean, this is ultimately what we've got to be gearing these experiences around. This is to me is where, particularly that strategy phase really comes into play, and where I think is the opportunity for the folks in our industry. And this is a big intellectual, heavy intellectual work to figure out and design and test the experiences that they're able to bring customers into the store, into the category, and again, shop with intent.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, shoppers shop by mission today, more so than by store or by channel. So if they have a mission, I mean, obviously, there's a number of opportunities, a number of options that they can satisfy that mission. Some missions are very suitable to certain places to carry out that mission, and some aren't. So I think this whole idea of shopping by mission, rather than getting locked into the traditional box of shopping by store format or by online versus offline, shopper missions are really, as you say, Ty, they're really a critical building block of strategy. I think that has to drive things like category management, and frankly, I know your tools, I think, can unlock some of the knowledge around different shopper missions and how different in-store conditions affect the ability to execute different shopper missions. So I think this is a very important area.
Dr. Harris, speaking of strategy, I think in decades past, there's been a heavy reliance on tactics that hopefully sort of work well together. But why would you say that strategy, more than just tactics, is so critical to unlocking category growth in today's environment?
I think, Ty, I mean, you have to understand the future, right? I mean, you can't simply look back and repeat what you've done and hope that it'll adapt to the changes that are happening. So, and that's what strategy does. Strategy really forces us to think about, what are the drivers in consumers and shoppers and competition that are really driving the future of categories, and not simply helping us explain the past, right? So strategy always is the umbrella over tactics. I mean, again, how do we build a planogram? If we don't know what the strategy behind that planogram is, it becomes very mechanical, and you finish up with a tactical solution which might address certain things like out of stocks or whatever. However, that's tweaking. Tactics are tweaking mechanisms. They're not category growth driving mechanisms as strategies are. So I think that's important. I also think, if you look at in our industry, one of the things that I think we've kind of fallen into a trap, there's a lot of wonderful tools. If you look at tools across the whole board, in any tactical area, those tools, the quality and the power of those tools have become extremely valuable in the last decade. But the problem is that if you get enamored just in tools and you don't understand for what strategic purposes that tool add value, I think you're going to suboptimize the value and the ROI on those tools.
Oh, 100%. Look, there's an adage that's one of my favorites. Look, it's easy to get excited about shiny objects, whatever, but if we're out there and you have a solution looking for a problem, you're upside down. And that's definitely is a risk out there today. So,
well, the other thing I would add, Ty, is that if you look at, retailers in the past used to rely heavily on manufacturers for doing a lot of the tactical level work. These days, I mean, retailers have invested in these tools, and in many ways, they have kind of locked out the supplier influence, which is not good. So the whole idea of collaborative intelligence building and collaborative sharing of ideas in my opinion, has somewhat been diminished because there's been this fatuation of the shiny object new tool. And retailers, they've taken in these tools. I mean, these days, retailers have powerful assortment tools, store-by-store assortment, store-by-store planogram, et cetera, et cetera. And, in many ways, the collaboration has diminished. Collaboration has to happen at the strategy level first, and that's where it begins.
Yeah, no, we we at Storesight, I mean, that is kind of core to our mission with this solution. I mean, we see this is a means to provide a collaborative environment around a common source of truth. And we know that's so much of a struggle today. It's just what is real, what is true. And so to be able to, for our custom suppliers and for the suppliers and the retailers to actually hunker down around this common data set, this common source of truth, is just, a game changer. I wanted to mention something. So as we were talking more about the, why strategy is so important here, I think one of the things that I'm seeing, and is kind of ties back to something I mentioned earlier, but look, the strategies require we're not in a static environment. The consumer is changing dramatically. The competitive forces are becoming bigger. They're becoming from new places, and so you literally just if you rely on tactics, you're missing the forest for the trees, right? And so yeah. Look, and I think also too with this, the expectations and the bar that the consumer is setting for us as retailers in the retail environment is continuing to get higher and higher, because guess what? They're getting satisfied outside of it. And so we need to be strategic and forward looking around what the experience, how we're meeting the shopper missions of today, the shopper missions of the future, so that they still find experience the primary means to engage with our products.
I mean, the speed of change today, when I look back over the last 30 years, there's never been a time where the speed of change is exerting such an influence. So, we used to have more time to adapt and adjust. Okay. Consumer behavior didn't change that quick. Shopper behavior didn't change that quick. But today, wow, I mean, every macroeconomic event can change behavior and expectations pretty much overnight. So the speed of change is what is so different today. And if we don't have tools and mechanisms and process to be able to quickly identify, hopefully a little bit more in a predictive way, and then be able to have a process to be able to take that forward-looking intelligence into our business methods, things are going to be tough,
Yeah. I've been talking with our customers. I mean, the ones that are, really kind of taking the bull by the horns here are the ones that have a strategy around agility, like how we are going to be a faster moving organization. How are you going to get information faster, make decisions faster, and execute faster? Like that's, core to their priority sets right now because of all those forces.
Let's dig into the role of technology and retail intelligence. And I think acceleration is the key word here. Ty, how does Storesight fit into this next generation category management for your customers, and what specific problems is it helping category teams to solve?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the easiest way to think about it is, we've created a whole new class of data, and powering retail intelligence for category managers and everybody involved within, the retail engagement. Providing this always on retail source of truth is just this new data set that you can, integrate into your decision-making process, your execution processes. And so what we see is, very similar, Dr. to your model and the way we think about, just the different phases of category management. They're pulling this data in and solving problems, whether it's in the planning process. So, when you think about Storesight is, we are kind of everywhere at this point. And so with, data from stores, hundreds, if not thousands of stores, every given week, you're able to see what's happening and really internalize that data easily. And so we're seeing, customers use that around space planning and design decisions. And so not just looking at their own sets or what's happening there, but giving a view into competitive retailers, looking at global sets, what's happening in other countries. So all that stuff is just this really, mass scale information pull. They're able to drive, from the creative side all the way up to the tactical decision making. We are very deeply involved in really game changing integrated in the selling process. Particularly our customers, one of the things that they love is the competitive monitoring, I mean, look, competition is just that. Like is one of those critical things to pay attention to. And so our customers are using Storesight to be able to monitor what's happening, see what's happening, whether it's new packaging, claims, pricing, all this stuff happening in real time, watch how it's changing over time. But that brings it, able to bring that in and integrate it in with their other data sources to have compelling sales stories. Look, and as I mentioned earlier, the execution management has always been a thing. Like that's always been a priority, but, we're certainly seeing this year that the topic is being amplified. And so, kind of obvious here, but when you're able to go in and at scale, look at hundreds and thousands of stores in a given week, month, et cetera, we're able to, provide the systems and tools for our customers to have scorecards and the ability to actually instrument their performance against those shelf standards, perfect store initiatives, you name it. And then lastly, I think, as particularly in category management, we always hear from the category management contacts in our businesses is like, I'm constantly having, members of the organization, coming with arms outstretched to me looking for insights. I need diagnostic help, et cetera. And so our solutions being integrated and utilized there to be able to understand some sort of aberrant view POS data instance or some hunch that an executive had by being in one store, or questions that are coming from the buyer, able to go in, take those and go look at that problem at scale, work on a thesis, work on a hypothesis, and actually, understand the whys. And if there's an issue there, is there not? Is there an opportunity there? Is there not? So that is, again, we're seeing the platform being integrated in every step there of category man.
Yeah, I love the idea of, if you think about it, collecting this information from multiple stores, multiple markets in real time, the ability to connect the dots across those stores and markets to really start to say is there a new pattern of shopper behavior emerging here, right? Are there certain trends that we can now start to detect and confirm as being signs of early changes of behavior or motivation or expectations? I think, Ty, that's a real benefit that you have, that you're able to connect the dots between this multiple geographically dispersed sets of markets and growth drivers. So I love what you guys are up to. I think that's going to be a very important deliverable in the future for you guys.
Yeah, it is an exciting time to be alive. From my perspective, I think obviously the scale that we've already had with the business, with Field Agent, and be able to be in, all stores all the time. But now it's, the AI technology enables, like, I think about it as like, if you could go stand in front of your set or your category, now do that times 100 right now, to go basically stand in 100 stores right now and think about how much rich data is there when you're looking at your set, what's happening with out of stocks, promotions, new competitive entrants, et cetera. What the platform is able to do is to do that. We're giving you multiplicity, the ability to do that, but then actually consume and process that data. And so again, that's the power of what's happening with AI today, that we couldn't do these things 2 years ago.
Yeah. Ty, real-time shelf data at scale has always been a part of the Field Agent story, and bringing Shelfgram together and the power of AI has taken it to another level. Sort of contextualize all of that. Talk about how real-time shelf data is changing the way brands approach planning, compliance, and performance, and what impact the deployment of Storesight is having on your current customers.
Yeah. A couple things here. I think one, we're seeing that again, this huge, rich, real-time data set is opening the aperture for this. So, you're bringing in both quant data as well as these images into this kind of immersive analytical experience around, your set, your category, your mom. We are seeing also too that this is driving a real-time speed and agility. Again, this is data. We move at the speed of our data and our ability to consume the data. And so this has been a big unlock for our customers, and the fact that it didn't exist before. We were living on, retrospective POS data. And so, the customers today are moving their cycles up. They're having, just faster planning. They're being more responsive to all those forces that we talked about earlier. We also, Dr. Harris, you mentioned the importance of collaboration. The experiences that really just kind of bring a huge smile to my face is when I hear from my customers about how this has been like an unlock with their retail buyers and merchants, where they are all of a sudden, collaborating around this new data set and this new insights and the insights that are coming off of it that is just feeding a very it's very much kind of on the interpersonal side. It's creating a whole new level of trust and engagement and participation and partnership that they didn't have before. Because look, I think we know that, data access wasn't always an even playing field for a lot of suppliers, depending upon the decisions of the retailers or the availability, what you had the pocketbook for. And so, this creates that playing field there that's driving a new level of collaboration around that source of truth. And look, I think, we're all data-driven folks as well. And as I mentioned earlier, this, the emergence of these execution scorecards, which are not new, but, historically you would do that once a year. You'd have a massive, sponsored project to go and do these, big store audits and have people, manually collecting information. You've now got the power of AI plus the data that we're providing to be able to provide those in the real time. So it's a whole new set of KPIs and benchmarks for the industry that didn't exist before. So some stuff that I've been excited about. I'll give you maybe a couple examples of some things that are happening with our customers right now. We've got a Fortune 500, major consumer product manufacturer that's got a huge initiative to launch 1,000 new products over the next 3 years. Wow. And so we've been brought in to be a key part of that initiative in a couple different areas. So one is it's actually upstreaming the strategy and planning standpoint. And so utilizing the platform to be able to go out and actually examine and analyze the available markets. So what are if we're wanting to enter into XYZ new category, what does that look like? Who are the entrants? What are the sets? What is the actual opportunity that we're seeing visually off of there to be able to drive that upfront planning process? And then secondly, like we mentioned before, they're creating then the executional scorecards. So like, we're not going to fall down on this because we didn't execute well. And so creating the cadences, the systems, the instrumentation to actually manage and monitor execution across their different outlets to ensure that they get escape velocity with those new products. So that's, one example. I think, another one that's really been, this is just, really kind of nitty gritty, and getting an example, a lot of our, the folks that are watching and listening, can deal with. But we had, a customer, another Fortune 500 personal care product line, where they, again, POS data, the financial data, all was fine. Things going on. But they'd been utilizing our platform and our flagging around out of stock issues, created a flag that they ended up diving deeper into. What found was actually a strong endemic issue around phantom inventory with their retailer, brought that to them, created an instantaneous $500,000 order right there just to get things up and running, but also the ongoing run rate of that and solving that inherent problems, is worth millions and made certainly made the quarter, if not the year, for the retail team. So it's those types of things, again, from high-end strategic all the way into just the nitty gritty, just getting it done in store every day.
Dr. Harris, the industry is obviously very excited about the launch of Storesight, and you having given so many decades of your career to the study and practice of category management must be very excited too. Talk about why category managers and key account managers should consider adding Storesight to their tech stack.
Yeah, I think there's a number of benefits, Matt, but the two that strike me as most important. It's a source of information that we've never really been able to tap into in some kind of systematic way. Okay. Because when you think about it, I mean, as I said earlier, we have no shortage of information, but the one big gap I think we've had is this. It's really the implementation end of the information funnel. And I think Storesight has tremendous opportunities to really fill that gap. The second thing is, and Ty's already mentioned it, KPIs. We've never really been able to put effective implementation KPIs on the category manager scorecard. This gives us the ability to do that and to do it in a timely way with accuracy and with insight. So I know there's a number of other benefits. I've already mentioned a few of them, like the analytics. be able to really start to infer changes happening and how consumers are shopping and how they're reacting to changing conditions in the marketplace. But I think that, to me, the two big ones is the availability now of this powerful piece of source of information, which we've not had before, and at a level that you can do something about it. I mean, you can get down to store by store, category by category, item by item. That's unbelievable. And then the KPIs, the ability to have on your scorecard executional KPIs that really have that really demonstrate whether you as a category manager are doing good work at the upstream level, but when it gets downstream, there's opportunities to improve, and you need a KPIs to be able to do that. So they'd be the two, Matt, that strike me most.
Yeah, no, I think, look, a great example here is, we have a customer that, again, Fortune 500, sexual health and, skincare product lines, where the retail team and the buyers are both struggling with this just, severe decline in sales that they couldn't explain well. And so, what we saw was this emergence of collaboration and trust that came out of this collective problem solving between the two, utilizing the platform to understand what was happening ultimately locally around the use of locked merchandise. And so the team and the merchant really, collectively got wrapped around the problem, used the data to identify where this was happening, and then ultimately come up with a corporate decision and implementation that made sense for both the theft protection as well as kind of sales risk dynamics that were at play.
Yeah, we alluded to the power of great collaboration. Dr. Harris, I'm going to come back to you and talk a little bit about joint business planning and execution. Specifically, why has joint business planning often fallen short of being truly joint or strategic?
That's a great question, Matt. Well, joint obviously means collaboration, right? I mean, so if there's issues in or barriers in the way of effective collaboration, you could pretty much guarantee that it's not going to be joint, right? So I think it's, yes, trust always comes to play, but I also think it's how much can we move the needle through collaboration? And I think to put a lot of time and effort into collaborative work that frankly probably doesn't deserve the attention because it's too tactical, okay, in its focus. You really have to, if you're going to drive effective collaboration, you really want to drive it around the knowledge, sharing knowledge around the more strategic future drivers of category growth, right? You got to focus on where is the real growth and why is that growth there, and then you jointly come together to attack a problem which is going to generate a much more impactful outcome. I think a lot of the collaboration today has become, I'd call it more cooperation rather than collaboration. Collaboration to me has always had should have a strong strategic motivation. And I think we that's not happened, and I think this jointness, the joint business planning, as a result, has really kind of suffered. And strategic, I've already answered that, I think, because if your joint work is around better tactics, okay, there's going to be probably some benefit. But if that joint work is not around the right strategic areas, things like what segments to focus on, what segments have the highest growth potential in the future, what shopping missions really best fit the kind of brands and the categories that jointly we're trying to manage. So I think until we get into that, to me, joint business planning really is neither joint nor strategic. And I think we need to reinvigorate and kind of go back to principles of what is effective collaboration, and then that clearly we know it'll be joint and it'll be strategic.
Ty, you touched on this a moment ago, but talk about how Storesight is supporting more balanced, data-informed collaboration between retailers and suppliers.
Yeah, what we're seeing is it's a place for them to converge. Yeah. Comes down again. You've established that there's this new incredible data set that didn't exist before, but we're really focused also around solving for the collaboration workflows that we're seeing here, where we can actually engage around the data communicate around the data, and it get to making just actual strategic, real decisions and actions.
Yeah, I mean, again, I come back to what I said before. I think, the value of these tools are measured by the advantages they now offer in speed, accuracy, relevance, and scale. And when you think about, where do opportunities come at the category and really beyond the category level? They become because we see things faster, more accurately. They're more relevant to driving real growth, and we can do it at a scale that replicates that success across our whole enterprise. So I think, though, I come back to what I said before. I think Storesight checks all those boxes, and that's why it's going to be a very effective tool for both manufacturers and retailers.
So alignment is the key that brings sort of all of this together. Dr. Harris, what are the downstream benefits when planning and execution are aligned through a shared intelligence layer?
Well, I think we know that there's lots of lost sales and consumer dissatisfaction when implementation comes up short. Okay, so and you can't wait until you implement it to determine that you may have a problem. The downstream results have to be predicted and addressed in the upstream work. Okay, so I think the days of saying, look, I think it's going to work, let's go and put it out there and try it. I think there has to be a lot more upstream consideration of the realities of execution and what's needed to make it effective. Because we know in the retail world, many category managers historically will blame the store manager for poor execution, right? Well, the store manager is going to say it was a lousy idea in the first place. So why did you even send it to me, right? So this lack of clarity around why it's important to do something, which is really the upstream part of the process, will clearly, I think, lead to much better results on the downstream side when the right things are executed and people understand the logic behind what they're being asked to execute.
Yeah. I think you touched on this earlier, the speed and agility that's going to come out of this. Like we, in this retail environment, have to operate on faster cycles. And so that feedback from the store manager, we're going to see that in real time. We're going to know if the sets are actually matching. We're going to see what through the eyes of the consumer, what that actually looks like. And so I think that to me is the world or it's this group gets kind of hunkered down around this new intelligence layer. We're gonna want to move faster because we can't.
I said it before, but one of the things that excites me about this is yes, we can more quickly see and address implementation issues. But I really like the idea of, if we've got this information now being collected across markets and across categories and across different consumer segments, how then do we package that information to address some of the more strategic questions that really ultimately should be upstream of the execution decision, right? So, things like, are different segments of shoppers behaving differently, okay? Which segments of shoppers are most negatively responding to out of stocks? Okay. What kind of shopper missions? I look at shopper baskets. What kind of shopper missions are really are being dominated by this category versus that category? They're the kind of strategic unlocks that I think, Ty, the data you're collecting has the potential to unlock some of those secrets and some of those insights.
Yeah. No, I think we're like, it's more, I think it's even more than that, the data. I mean, certainly the data is a big part of this, but this is, again, being this exciting time to be alive. You've now with, multimodal AI, our ability to consume our data, POS data, the research from the marketing groups, all those things can be brought together and synthesized within these AI models to start answering those questions faster. Like that's what gets me excited. And I think, I think it's what's going to be a driver of some pace of change, but also kind of what the world looks like for our, category managers out there.
As we head toward the wrap up of this conversation, I think it's important to touch on the importance of preparing for the future. Anytime there's a fundamental change in an industry, it brings both opportunity and risks. And so let's talk about that. What skills, Dr. Harris, what skills and capabilities will the next generation of category managers and key account managers need to bring to the table in order to stay relevant?
Yeah, great, obviously critical, because in the end, let's face it, I've always said you can have great strategies, great processes, but if you don't have the people with the skills to carry that forward, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So there's some dramatic changes going to happen, I think, in how work is done in category management. Like, for example, the hours and hours and hours and hours that category managers spend doing what I would consider the more manual side of category management, spreadsheet analytics, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, the next generation process, particularly AI driven, is going to take away, is going to really cut through the manual side of that, right? And it'll free up the category manager to be more strategic, more creative, more intelligent in how they collaborate with their suppliers, and really more analytical, not so much in the day-to-day calculating the numbers from spreadsheets, but be able to look at an output from an AI recommended platform and say, that analytics fits with my opportunity. So I think there's going to be some significant changes as a result in skills required for strategic thinking, creative thinking, collaborative management, and analytical capability. So I think they would be the top four areas, Matt, where I think new skills or an upgrading of current skills are going to really be required and will make a difference.
Yeah,
100%. I could not. I mean, those literally the echo that answer. I think this, because this is such a analytical field, and we're seeing what AI is doing there. It is. Look, it's going to free up a lot of time for category managers. After this, I think the emphasis around the intellectual side of this and what you're bringing the AI can't. Yeah, I think we're going to see. I think there's opening time for more kind of creative, more experimentation. Like this is, I think the future for these roles is exciting. I think it's going to be, really just interesting work. And requires them to be, again, the interpersonal side will still matter. Ultimately, you're collaborating with your retail partners.
AI will make your job better. It won't replace you. Okay. And that's critical, and I'm very encouraged when I hear people, retailers and suppliers we're talking to about, they got that. They're creating the culture where AI will augment their strengths rather than replace what they do. So I think that's a critical attitude.
Yeah. Tom, my next question was to you about embracing the power of AI. How can organizations prepare their teams to act more quickly, think more strategically, and embrace the power of AI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, I think it's critical. You've got to declare that is something that is important, that this is a priority, and communicate this. This is what we're seeking to achieve. I think just making that, just getting on the kind of the collective conscience of the organization is first and foremost in the corresponding communication. The second piece is, AI, you can't just kind of just drop an AI bomb and just see what happens. I think this, going back to that statement I made earlier around, sometimes kind of getting lost with, solutions that are looking for problems. And I think we see with our customers, and we're doing, internally at Storesight, is really doing the work to understand where we want or believe that AI can either, create optimization opportunities, unlock new market opportunities, wherever those things are, and actually starting there and then asking how AI can actually solve it. And then doing the work to actually prioritize those different hypotheses and then plowing against it. That's all, all that stuff's awesome. That your teams need to have the tools and the data to go get it done.
Yeah. I also would say, Ty, that senior leadership is even more critical today than it was. When category management first started, yes, we always said the senior management have to commit to it. They got to understand it, et cetera. I think with the speed of change, if the organization isn't led to be able to comfortably start the journey in AI, and be able to really address some of the challenges of AI, that's a leadership issue. So if senior leadership don't commit or don't take time to understand this, to me, that's a recipe for a bad start and probably failure.
Yeah, absolutely. Strong executive sponsorship, ownership. Yeah, again, anything without that level of commitment or focus will die on the vine. And look, I think the risk here is that, I mean, like this is going to be a great separator when it comes down to is those who adopt and integrate AI well are going to create massive space between them and those who don't.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we all, everybody, I think we collectively all know that, but I think some businesses are really committed to it. Some are paying lip service to it.
Yeah. I think the ability to catch up is going to be so much harder than changes in the past, because I think this is going to move so fast and have such a pervasive effect on organizations. If you sit on the sidelines and wait and watch, you may never catch up.
Dr. Harris, where is the discipline heading in the next 3 to 5 years, and what excites you the most about that direction?
I think there's a couple of areas that really get me excited. One is the ability to leverage this wide diversity of data that we've never had before. Okay, we can now bring that all into one platform in one place and analyze it. Because one of the great challenges that retailers and manufacturers have had for years and years and years, yes, they have data, but the data's all over the place in some functions, in some offices, et cetera, et cetera. We now have the ability to put it all under one umbrella, analyze it with one set of tools, connect the dots in a unified way. And to me, that's going to open up new things that we have never seen before, because we haven't been able to connect the dots efficiently like that. So I think that's one. The other one, and the reason for the next generation category management process, is that we will reconnect it to strategy. The first 5 steps of this new process are all strategy. Okay, they're putting strategy back as the driver of category management and elevating and putting tactics in the rightful place within that process. Okay, so that's what excites me. I think we have the ability to restore the strategic driving platform for category management, which we've kind of lost in the last 10 years, in my opinion. And then second, I think the speed of knowing how we're doing, and I think that's where Storesight fits in so beautifully. We can now much more quickly say, you know what, that worked or didn't work, and why and how and where, rather than having to have that bomb dropped on us sometime in the future when if we hadn't known it earlier, we could have made earlier corrections. So I think those 3 areas, Matt, to me, strike me as being, real big direction setters, new change of thinking, new opportunities like we haven't had before.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more as well. And I think this is an exciting time. I think what is happening to kind of create the space for strategy, for the intellectual horsepower around strategy, is something that's going to make, think about from a people standpoint, I think this is could be renaissance time as a category manager. Really just fun, challenging things to solve with ever growing complexity of the consumer and how they're interacting with our products.
Last question to you, Dr. Harris, and I'll ask the same to Ty. In 60 seconds, give us your elevator pitch for Intent AI. Tell us about the work that your team is doing, what your ideal customer looks like, and the very best way to engage with you and your team.
The Intent AI are addressing the urgent need to upgrade the 30-year model of category management. Okay, that's what excites me. That's critical. So Intent AI, we have developed and we've proven a new process for doing category management, from strategy on down through tactics. Okay, and drive it off an AI platform. Be able to have that process connected and driven by an AI platform. That's what Intent AI does, right? We have the platform being developed pretty close to being ready to be launched, and we have the new process, which we know we've already tested and delivers spectacular results, right? So that's the business proposition. Again, it's like a lot of these things. We're going to that middle level retailer and manufacturer where there is more openness to new ideas and creativity, and wanting to make sure that they stay closer to the front edge of new developments rather than being afraid to be there. So they're our targets. We're not going after the big guys at this point. We're going after that middle ground of retailers that are historically creative and more innovative. On the CPG side, I think it's much more open. CPGs, there's some of them that are very interested in moving in this direction, others that are taking a wait and see attitude. We've identified, and we're speaking to, I think, 3 or 4 of CPGs that are very much inclined to think this way and want to get out there first. So that's what we do. www.intentaitech.com will get you to where we are.
Very good. Ty, please.
Yeah, great. Well, look, Storesight, we are a retail intelligence platform that is bringing real-time, always-on in-store data to CPG customers. Our ideal customers are retail professionals, with their category managers, folks in brand, folks in key account, that all want to understand what's happening in store in real time. So we provide that through really kind of think of it as like a syndicated data service offering. We're able to get access to hundreds of stores a month in the category categories that matter to you. And we also provide a set of bespoke data services. We help customers with mystery shops, store audits, really anything you need from a data bespoke data collection out there in the field. You can find us at storesight.com.
Gentlemen, it's been an honor and a privilege to spend time with you today. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the successes of your teams, and thank you so much for the contributions that you're making to the industry. Have a great day.